all night long. Fancy helping some faces, young and old, to warm the hearts when it's snowing and it's cold. You're gonna have to find a crew, it can't be anyone. They'll have to be there by your side and do what must be done. So go, man, you know that you have it night through day. The pain you will feel it to bring it on with the Austria County Band. Doubts come and some may never die. So I'll ask myself, should I stop before I try? No way, man, mistake, it has been said. I'm all in, so there's nothing I'll regret. But time is ticking and there's so much that's going through my mind. Will I make it? Yes, I will. Our spirits are entwined. So let's get this show on the road. I'm here, I'll stay and I'll carry the load to bring it on with the Austria County Band. But hold on a second now, I'm starting to feel the strain. Was it a bicycle? What is wrong with my brain? Is it the end of me? No, I must still believe. So I'm still alive, you see. Heck yeah, now I'm on my way. But let's stay focused, there's still a job in hand that we must do. Good afternoon, folks. You are very welcome to Bandido Talks. Well, we've made it, folks, to Wednesday. We're still here. We are hanging in. Not hanging in at all. We're soaring through the week. And don't read into that particular gesture too much. I know those of you out there on the internet, you like to microanalyze every little movement that people make. But no, there is nothing to read into that particular movement. I'm just saying that we've been soaring throughout the week. Nothing more, nothing less. But of course, folks, speaking of soaring, we've got a very interesting story for you all this afternoon. Soaring up a mountain, climbing or hiking up a mountain, is one of those things that the thrill seekers among us love to do. One of these big dramatic climbs up a big dangerous mountain to try and reach the peak. We have all of these thrill seekers among us who love to do such things. It's not the Bandido's cup of tea. The Bandido does not want to be getting himself into circumstances where there are too many uncontrollables. Of course, whenever you're one of these mountain people who like to climb up these big high mountains and try to reach the peaks, there are of course many uncontrollables that we must factor in to such an activity. And something very interesting has caught the Bandido's attention. He only found out about this morning. And I thought I had to do a show on this. I just had to do a show because there's such an important lesson from this story. Now, of course, for those of you who are not aware, there was this man and woman, boyfriend, girlfriend. And last year, I think it was last January, they both decided that they were going to climb up one of Austria's most difficult mountains to climb. It's arguably the most dangerous, most difficult mountain to scale in Austria. And this couple decided, okay, we are going to try and scale this mountain. Now, the boyfriend apparently was the more experienced of the two. He was a more experienced mountaineer, mountain climber, whatever the name is for this type of person. And his woman, she was not as experienced, but she's familiar with hiking and climbing up mountainsides. It's something that she really liked to do. It's something that they like to do as a couple. And so they decided, okay, we are going to climb up this really dangerous, well, I'm saying really dangerous, really difficult. It's one of the most difficult peaks to ascend up to in Austria. And this couple decided, okay, well, we're going to try and do this. Do this as a couple. Now, of course, what happened? Well, a bit of a tragedy unfolded. And what was the tragedy? Well, as they were just getting close to the peak, the woman got fatigued, exhausted, and disoriented, or disorientated, or whatever the word is. She lost her bearings, and she started to really quickly fatigue. And, of course, just as they were about to hit the peak, they had the entire mountain to go back down again. So this was really a sticky set of circumstances because they've almost reached the peak. But all of a sudden, the woman gets really fatigued. She loses her bearings, very disoriented, and she starts to essentially slow down rapidly. And so the man is left, the boyfriend is left in this sort of a tricky circumstance whereby, what does he do? Because, of course, I'm talking about uncontrollables. What happened? Well, the weather started to take a turn for the worst. Very high winds. It was extremely cold. I think it was -9
But because of the wind chill factor, it was almost like -20. So you've got these high winds. It's really, really cold. She gets really fatigued. He's obviously up there with her. And this is a bit of a pickle. And so what ends up happening is he decides to leave her and go back down the mountain again and try to find help. He tries to ring the emergency services, but because of the high winds, they couldn't perform a helicopter rescue. And so she was stranded up there. He leaves her to go and look for help elsewhere. And what ends up happening, she freezes to death. She dies up at the top of this mountain. Now, why am I saying this? I'm saying this because what has now happened is the boyfriend is being taken to court for manslaughter. Some sort of a bogus charge of negligence and manslaughter, and he could face up to 3 years in prison. And so this is what we're going to get into here on our show. This is a really important show because it actually makes sense of a lot of the things that we talk about here on Bandido Talks. This is a perfect real-world example of the things that we talk about, why it's so important to, let's just say, pay attention to some of the lessons that we are all learning from these different stories throughout the show and throughout the weeks of the show. Because here we have this tragedy at the top of this Austrian mountain. And we're going to get into this. We're going to extract the lesson because there is a big important lesson in this, folks. And some of you are probably not going to agree with the Bandido's take with regards to this particular incident. But that's tough because we need to go there in order to extract the lesson. That's exactly what we're going to do. But before we get into that, folks, I will remind you, feel free to give the live stream a thumbs up, give us a like, get down into the comments section, leave a comment down there, let me know what you think about everything that we will talk about. If you are joining us live, get into the live chat. Leave your comments and your insights there. At the end of the show, if we have any live chats, I will get to those, see what it is you folk are saying. And then finally, folks, if you like in general what we do here at Bandido Talks, then feel free to subscribe to the channel. Here on YouTube, we are live Monday to Thursday, 5 p.m. Irish time here on YouTube. Of course, folks, not only are we live on YouTube, but we are also live on Rumble. We go straight over to Rumble after our show here on YouTube, 6 p.m. Irish time, Monday to Thursday. You'll find all the details up above and down below. The scrolling black banner will show you the details, how to direct yourself over to Rumble. Of course, subscribe to Bandido Talks over on Rumble. Subscribe here on YouTube. You will be notified of all of our live events. You have so much live content, folks. We do different things here on YouTube compared to Rumble. Every show is a unique show, a different topic. So you actually have 8 live shows every week. 4 on YouTube, 4 on Rumble. Subscribe to both channels, folks, and you'll be notified of every time we have a live show, every time there's a video upload. We don't want you missing out on all of your lessons now, do we? So anyway, with all of that out of the road, folks, let us get into this afternoon's show. Now, this one's a very interesting one. And as I've already said, I think some of you are going to perhaps disagree. You'll think the Bandido has lost his compassion. You'll think he's a cold, bitter, selfish individual who isn't particularly interested in the humanity of a story. And you know what? Here's the thing. Sometimes, folks, when we have these stories, especially these ones that we are going to define as tragedies, as we always say here on the show, you can have your emotional response. That's fine. But then we do need to be professionals in our analysis. We really do. Because if we let our emotions get in the road of things, it can cloud our judgment. And when our judgment is clouded, we can't fully see the lessons that are right before us. And if we miss the lessons, we're missing out on opportunities to learn something important about the world. So it's not that the Bandido is some sort of cold-hearted individual. He's just going to approach this with a very professional lens so that you can benefit from the lesson. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read out a summary of this story from a BBC article. Now, I've already kind of summarized it, but let's bring in the official media here. Let's see what the media is saying with respect to this story so that you can just fully understand what it is that we are dealing with here. And then from there, we can draw the lesson out of all of this. So let me head over. Let's get this little article up here from the BBC and see what it has to say. So, the title of the article is as follows. Climber on trial for leaving girlfriend to die on Austria's highest mountain. Now, this is a big article. I'm going to read out a bit of this, just so you can get some of the names, some of the ages, and all of that. So the article says the following. More than a year ago, a 33-year-old woman froze to death on Austria's highest mountain. Her boyfriend is going to go on trial now, this Thursday, accused of gross negligent manslaughter. Gross negligent manslaughter. Kirsten G. This is the name of the lady who died. Kirsten G. died of hypothermia on a mountain climbing trip to the Grossglockner that went horribly wrong. Her boyfriend is accused of leaving her unprotected and exhausted close to the summit in stormy conditions in the early hours of January the 19th, 2025, while he went to get help. The trial has sparked interest and debate, not just in Austria, but in mountain climbing communities far beyond its borders. Prosecutors say that, as the more experienced climber, the man on trial was, quote, the responsible guide for the tour, and failed to turn back or call for support in time to help his girlfriend. Identified by Austrian media as Thomas P., this is the man, the boyfriend, who left his girlfriend to go and find help. Thomas P. denies the charges, and his lawyer, Kurt Jelinek, has described the woman's death as, quote, a tragic accident. The tragedy unfolded after the couple began their climb of the 3,798 metre, that's 12,460 foot, Grossglockner. Prosecutors accuse Thomas P., the boyfriend, of making mistakes from the outset and have published a list of 9 errors. Now let me just keep going on down here because it goes into all these intricacies. Let me just see. So what essentially happened was the prosecutors say the man should have turned back when it was still possible because of the strong winds up to 74 kilometers per hour and the winter cold. It was -8 degrees Celsius with a wind chill temperature of -20. The couple did not turn back. Now, accounts of what happened next differ. So, essentially, the boyfriend's lawyer says that him and the girlfriend still felt fine. They didn't feel the need to turn back. It was a joint decision. In the first place, it was a joint decision to actually climb this mountain, and it was also a joint decision to continue, even though the weather started to get a little stormy. Now, it then got to this point where they are approaching the peak, and so the article continues. The situation changed dramatically at this point as they were approaching the peak. To the man, or the boyfriend's complete surprise, the woman, quote, suddenly showed increased signs of exhaustion, although by then turning back was too late. And the boyfriend rang the police. Then he put his phone on silent. He seemed to go then and try to find help. And what has ended up happening then is he goes to get help. The strong winds and the stormy conditions are starting to kick in. They can't perform a helicopter rescue because of these strong winds. And Kirsten G, the girlfriend, she died alone in the snow on the frozen mountainside. Her social media feed suggests she was a keen mountaineer, and her mother had told German media that she loved mountain hiking at night. This is important, folks. Let me read this out again. Her social media feed suggests she was a keen mountaineer, and her mother has told German media that she loved mountain hiking at night. This all unfolded at night. If found guilty, the boyfriend, Thomas P., faces up to 3 years in prison. All right, so that's the lie of the land. So that's the BBC article. We haven't read the whole thing, but we've read enough to get a feel for what's going on here. Now, let me get my main screen back up. Okay, so this is really interesting, folks, because here we have two fully grown adults, a fully grown man and a fully grown woman. Let me repeat that. We have two fully grown adults, fully matured, a fully grown man and a fully grown woman. They are a couple, a boyfriend and a girlfriend. The man, the boyfriend, is apparently an experienced climber. The girlfriend, she's a keen mountaineer, and she loves to climb mountains at night, according to her own mother. And so this couple, who clearly like climbing mountains, they decided we together, as free sovereign individuals, we are going to decide to climb this mountain in Austria, this difficult, dangerous mountain in Austria. And we're going to do it at night. We're going to do it at a time, at a certain time. We're going to do it together. And so off they go. Now, they go up the mountain. Conditions start to get a little stormy. They both take the decision, apparently, to continue. And then all of a sudden, the girlfriend gets exhausted. She loses her bearings. She gets suddenly fatigued. And now we're all in a pickle. Everyone's in a pickle now. She's in a pickle and the boyfriend is in a pickle. The boyfriend is feeling fine. There's nothing wrong with him, not physically. They are almost at the peak. But she starts to fatigue. He tries to ring, gets in contact. We don't know the details of the discussion with the emergency services. He goes back down the mountain. He leaves her there. He goes back down the mountain to find help. She freezes to death. Now, these are both fully grown adults, folks. These aren't children. Fully grown adults with a mature human brain. This young lady, this 33-year-old lady, who has died. She died over a year ago when she made this climb. Now, I'm not trying to be deliberately harsh here, but this lady is a full-grown adult. She willingly, consciously decided, I want to climb this mountain with my boyfriend. Her boyfriend did not hold a gun to her head. And the boyfriend didn't say, with the gun held to her head, you have to climb this mountain with me. You're going to have to do something against your will. I'm going to drag you, kicking and screaming up this mountain with a gun held to your head. That didn't happen, folks. Now, you see, that didn't happen. What happened was, we had this young lady, 33 years of age. She's a keen mountaineer. She likes to climb mountains at night. She willingly, consciously took the decision that I'm going to scale this mountain with my boyfriend. It was her own decision. She came to that conclusion herself. She thought that she had the skill, the fitness, and the ability to climb this mountain. Nobody forced her to do it. She decided to do it. And then she got into difficulty. Not the boyfriend, she got into difficulty. In other words, we weren't prepared for the worst case scenario. She was not prepared for the worst case scenario. This lady knew exactly the cost benefit of engaging in this activity. She knew fine well the contract that she was signing when she decided to go up this difficult, dangerous mountain in Austria. She knew fine well. She wasn't forced to go up here. She wasn't coerced into doing it. It's not as if she was some 8-year-old child who doesn't know shit about the world. She's a fully grown adult. And she's actually a keen mountaineer. She knew fine well the risks and rewards of doing this. And she went ahead anyway. Folks, let's not be idiots here. If we all have a functioning brain, we all understand that if we decide that we're going to climb a very high 12,000 foot mountain covered in snow that is renowned for being a difficult climb, that can be dangerous, and that can present uncontrollables like stormy, windy conditions, we all know, folks, unless we are a retard, we all know the risks associated with engaging in an activity like climbing up a mountain like this one in Austria. We all know the risks. We know that if we don't want to increase our probability of death, then you know what we should do? We shouldn't climb the mountain. We should climb an easier mountain that is more predictable, that has better weather, that has a better or more safer track record. But you see, our 33-year-old deceased lady now, she knew all this. And again, you have to be a retard not to know this. It goes without saying, folks, climbing up a fucking 12,000 foot mountain that has a global reputation for being one of the most difficult mountains to climb in Austria. We all know that things can go wrong. We all know the risks associated with the activity. You have to be an idiot or a retard not to understand that. We all know that whenever we climb or hike up a mountain this big and this difficult and this dangerous, we all know that conditions can change quickly. We all know that we can trip, we can fall, we can get injured. We have to account for worst case scenarios. We have to be prepared. Because things can, of course, go wrong. And we understand that. As adults, folks, we understand that. And so, our lady here, who has died, she knew fine well what the risks were of heading up this mountain. She also knew the rewards. Why do you think she was doing this, folks? It goes back to our episode with Alex Honnold, the rock climber. Why do you think she was climbing up this mountain? Status. She was looking to get up there, take a few pictures, go back down to solid land again, and tell everybody what she's done, take the pictures, upload it to social media. That's probably a large part of her motivation. She's doing it for status reasons. It's the same with her boyfriend. Do you think she was just going to go up there and not take any pictures, not take any videos, not upload anything to social media? Do you think she was just going to go up there for the pure joy of mountain climbing? Of course she wasn't. She was going up there because she knew she was going to get content for social media. So she decided to embark on this very difficult climb. And she paid the ultimate price, her life. But my point here is, she knew the risk reward. She knew the cost benefit. She's a full-grown fucking adult, folks. 33 years of age. This isn't a child. So number one, it's not a child. And number two, nobody forced her to do this. The boyfriend, as far as we know, did not force her to do this. Her own mother said that she enjoyed climbing mountains at night. What could go wrong there? I mean, what could go wrong, folks? What could go wrong with climbing a 12,000-foot mountain at night? What could go wrong? You know, a 12,000-foot high mountain that has, snow on it and dangerous weather conditions and tricky terrain. You know, what could go wrong there? I wonder what could go wrong. Yeah. Hypothermia, trip and fall, fatigue, injury, dangerous conditions, extreme wind, fall down some sort of a hole or misplace your footing, I mean, folks, there are so many things that can go wrong when you want to scale a 12,000-foot high mountain at night that is renowned for being difficult and dangerous. Holy fuck. So number one, she's not a child. She's a 33-year-old fully grown adult. And number two, nobody forced her to do this. Nobody pointed a gun at her head and made her go up this mountain against her will. She consciously and willingly decided to do this with her boyfriend. And what happened? She got into trouble. She got herself and her boyfriend into a pickle. And she lost her life. Fully grown adult who willingly decided to do this. And because we live in a very sort of bizarre world in many ways, of course, what's now happening? Oh, that's right. It's the boyfriend's fault. It's the man's fault. Holy fuck, folks. This is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Now look, it is a tragedy. We have this young woman, 33 years of age, has left a whole bunch of life on the table. Of course it's a tragedy. But she's a fully grown adult and she willingly did this. And she knew fine well what the risks and rewards were of engaging in this activity. Unless you're a retard, you know what the risks are of ascending a 12,000-foot high mountain at night that's renowned for having dangerous conditions and tricky terrain. So she knew the risk and the reward. She knew the reward at the end of this. She would be able to elevate her status, basically. She would essentially acquire the admiration of people online and in the real world. Oh, you climbed this really difficult mountain in Austria. Ho ho, aren't you awesome? And then she uploads some videos and pictures to social media. She gets more followers, she gets more credibility, she enhances her reputation. All right, that's the reward. But the risk, or the cost, is losing your life. And we all know the risks of climbing up a big, high fucking mountain, folks. So yes, it is a tragedy because there's a lot of life left on the table. Nobody wanted this young woman to die, obviously. But for people to now turn around and say it's the boyfriend's fault. Oh, he's responsible because he's the more experienced mountain climbing person. Holy fuck. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. And he could face up to 3 years in prison. Ridiculous. The only reason that this young man should be held responsible is if he forced her to go up there. Or if he somehow, oh, I don't know, handicapped her deliberately when he went up there. He didn't do anything. He didn't attack her as far as we know. He didn't coerce her into going up there. No, she decided to do this of her own free will. And now he has to bear the responsibility for her death? My rear end. Now, do I have any sympathy for this man? Not really, because he put himself in these circumstances. So, again, I'm just commenting here from the perspective of how ridiculous this is. It's ridiculous that these Austrian prosecutors are trying to offload the blame onto this man, onto the boyfriend. Absolute nonsense. This woman was a fully grown adult, who made her own decision. She decided to do this. She likes to do this. This is her passion in life. And she fucked up. Now, folks, if I fuck up on this live stream, if I fumble my words, or I knock over the microphone, okay, I've technically fucked up. But you see, the cost to me doing that isn't very high. I just pick up the microphone again and put it onto the bench or onto the table. And if I fumble my words, well, I just start talking again and get back on track. The cost is low. Now, it just turns out when you do extremely risky behaviors, like climbing big, high, dangerous mountains, the cost is a lot higher when you make a mistake and when you fuck up. And she fucked up. She clearly was not in a state. She wasn't physically prepared for this. She got fatigued. She lost her bearings. She got exhausted. She became a liability to herself and to the boyfriend. And this idea that the boyfriend should have to bear responsibility for her death is absolute garbage. This is where the lesson here is, folks. Let me tell you the lesson because we talk about this frequently on the show. Self-accountability. Self-accountability. This 33-year-old woman, she decided to do this. She knew the risk-reward. She knew the cost-benefit of doing this. Only she knows truly how prepared she was. Judging by what has happened, she wasn't prepared enough. That's on her. Oh, but that's very harsh. That's very... Fuck you. Fuck you if you say that. It's not very harsh at all. If you're going to engage in an activity that's so risky, you need to be super prepared, number one, for the worst case scenario, and number two, you need to accept full responsibility, be fully accountable for your own actions. You're deciding to do this. You know the risk reward. You know the cost benefit. You know what could go wrong and what could go right if you pull this off. And so, this is a great example, folks, of watching in real time how people, in this case, Austrian prosecutors, are literally trying to absolve the woman of responsibility, trying to not make her accountable for what has happened. They are trying to blame the man. Now again, as I've said, he put himself in this set of circumstances. He decided to climb the mountain with his woman, who clearly wasn't prepared, who clearly didn't have it in her, to get up there and get back down again. So he has to bear responsibility for his own actions and decision making. He decided to climb this mountain with her. And so as a result, he's put himself in this pickle. So I'm not so much trying to defend him from his own actions and responsibilities. But what I will say is, to try and blame him for her dying is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Yes, the boyfriend has to bear responsibility for this entire circumstance, for this entire pickle, because he did decide to go up there with her. He could have decided, no, I'm not going up there with you. I'm going to go up myself, or I'm going to go up with some other person who's more capable than you. And he got himself into a pickle because he may as well have ended up biting the dust as well up there. Because he's now in a circumstance where, well, what do you do? It's very difficult. Once an uncontrollable, like very stormy weather comes into the equation, he's now at risk himself. So he has to bear responsibility. He essentially got into an agreement with a liability. She was a liability. That's the long and short of it. As harsh as that sounds, she's a liability. She overestimated her own abilities, and she paid the price for it. But that's life, folks. That's life. We all know the risks of climbing a very high mountain. She decided to plow on, but she was a liability. And the boyfriend decided to get into business with a liability. And so he now has a shit show on his doorstep. And he has to bear responsibility for that. If he didn't want this pickle, he should never have went into business with a liability. I don't care if it's his girlfriend, his mother, whoever the fuck it is. You don't get into business with liabilities. And this girlfriend of his was a liability. She gets up near the peak, she gets all exhausted, and yeah, she can't make her way back down now. The conditions take a turn for the worst. And it's a mess. It's a mess. And he has to bear responsibility for getting into this situation with a liability. But he is not responsible. He's not responsible for her death. Not from my perspective. Not at all. Not at all. She has to bear the responsibility of this circumstance. She decided to go up there. She clearly was not capable, and she was not prepared. She hadn't factored in a worst case scenario. And she lost her life. Yes, it's a tragedy. Yes, it's sad. But remember, folks, I'm stripping the emotion away from this. I'm not going to go into some big emotional rant here about how a 33-year-old has left a whole bunch of life on the table and soppy city here. We're going to start, allowing the tears to stream down our cheeks. No, we're not going to do that. We're going to take the emotion out of the equation here and analyze this for what it is. The idea that these Austrian prosecutors are trying to offload responsibility to this man is absolute bollocks. Complete and utter bollocks. The woman who died, as harsh as this sounds, she is fully accountable, she is fully responsible for her own death. That's the way of life, folks. She decided as a fully grown adult, with her own independent mind, with her own interests and ambitions, with her own goals, with her own agenda. She had an agenda. That's the reason why she was climbing this mountain. She had an agenda. She knew the risks, she knew the rewards, and she fucked up. And she paid the price. And so, we arrive now at our lesson. We are watching here. We are watching publicly with this story how this woman is being absolved of responsibility. It wasn't her fault. It's the boyfriend's fault. He's the more experienced one. He should have done this, this, and this. He made 9 mistakes. He has to bear the full responsibility for her death. Rubbish. No, he doesn't. She needs to bear the responsibility for her own actions and decision making. And she paid the price. But when you watch a story like this, folks, unfold, it sort of plants a little sort of seed. And it's a sort of a sneaky seed, we could say, that is being planted. Because you mightn't even realize this whenever you come across a story like this. But the sneaky seed that is being planted here is, it's fine to blame other people. It's fine to absolve yourself of responsibility. It's fine not to be self-accountable. It's fine not to fully take responsibility for your own actions and decision making. No, it's fine. You can absolve yourself of all of that and blame someone else. That's the sneaky seed that's been planted here. And the Bandido's coming on to remind you that that's a load of bollocks. In this life, folks, we should always take full responsibility for our decision making and our actions. This is extremely important to do. It's extremely important because when you take full responsibility, and you're fully accountable for your own actions, you decrease the probability of walking yourself into an absolutely ludicrously risky activity like our girlfriend woman here who has died. We reduce that probability, and let me tell you why. Because I could almost predict, I don't want to say with 100% certainty, but I could almost guarantee you that this young woman, 33 years of age, I can almost guarantee you that she didn't do her homework. I can almost guarantee you that she was not fully prepared. I can almost guarantee you that she didn't account for the worst case scenario. And I'm almost 100% confident in saying that I'm almost sure that she offloaded a lot of the responsibility for this climb to the boyfriend. I'm almost sure about that. So this young woman, if I had to guess, before she started this climb up this difficult mountain in Austria, I think she has already absolved herself of full responsibility. I think that's already happened. Because I think she's looking at her boyfriend and going, well, he knows a bit more than me. Well, sure, I'll not just do my full due diligence. No, I'll not just run through the worst case scenario. No, I'll not do a really accurate cost benefit analysis here, a risk reward analysis. I'll not go down through all of that. Because I'm hiking with him. He's my boyfriend. Well, sure, you know what? I'll just do a few basic bits and pieces and sort of figure out a few of the fundamentals of this mountain, and sure, he'll guide me up the rest of it. I could almost guarantee you that is something along those lines has went through her mind. In other words, she has offloaded a significant amount of responsibility for her own safety to the boyfriend. And this, folks, is an enormous mistake. I don't care how close you feel to someone in this life. You never, ever offload responsibility to other people. You never do that. Ever. You be fully accountable for your own actions and decision making. You always assume full responsibility for anything that you do in this life. I don't care how many people you are collaborating with. I don't give a shit. You take full responsibility. Because when you take full responsibility, guess what happens? You become more prepared. Because if you are fully accountable for what is going to potentially happen when you decide to climb up a 12,000 foot high mountain, if you are fully responsible for what happens on this particular climb, then you will fully prepare. You will fully prepare. You will do your full due diligence. And that is extremely important to do, because this young woman, when she got into the pickle up there, I don't think she was very prepared. I don't think she knew the ins and outs of what to do when you get into a sticky situation like this. And we need to ask the question, why did she not know? Why were there so many mistakes made? Well, here's my guess. She offloaded responsibility before she even started the climb. She wasn't fully accountable for what it was that she was going to do. And now what we're seeing, after she dies, we are now watching. We are watching this ridiculous circumstance unfold before us, whereby this man, let me get the actual accusation, or the actual crime that he's going to be potentially done for here. Gross negligent manslaughter. Holy fuck. Gross negligent manslaughter. What a load of legal bollocks. Nothing of the sort. She put herself in a disadvantageous set of circumstances because she didn't take full responsibility for this climb. She should have, in this circumstance, folks, she should have assumed, even though she was climbing with her boyfriend, she should have imagined that she was climbing on her own. That is how she should have prepared for this. And she should have asked herself a very important question. She should have asked herself, if I were climbing this alone, would I be capable of doing this? Could I climb this on my own? In theory, do I have the skill and expertise to climb this on my own? And I can almost guarantee you that the answer was no, I do not have the skill and expertise to climb this on my own. But my boyfriend does. Offloading responsibility. She should have answered that question honestly. Could I do this on my own? And if the answer is no, then she should have been nowhere near that mountain. Nowhere near it. Because she's now unprepared. She's underprepared. And it goes without saying, it's an accident waiting to happen. And then once the accident happens, isn't it oh so funny, folks, how society reacts? Isn't it oh so funny? Society doesn't do what the Bandido's doing here. Society's full of shit at times. No, what does society do? Oh, it's the boyfriend's fault. No, it's not her fault. No, she's not responsible for her own death. It's the boyfriend. He's the more experienced climber. No, she has no self-accountability. She's not responsible for anything. It was all on him. And now he could go to prison. And again, he got himself into a business deal. He got himself into an interaction with a liability. So he has to bear responsibility for that. That was a decision that he took. But I absolutely do not think it was his fault that she died. She was underprepared. She offloaded responsibility. And that's the lesson for us, folks. You never offload responsibility. You assume full responsibility for what it is that you're doing, no matter what it is in life. I don't care if it's climbing a mountain that's 12,000 foot high, or if it's doing your fucking homework. I don't care. Whatever it is, you take full responsibility for it. Because once you put yourself in a state where you have this full self-accountability for what it is that you're doing, you then, naturally, folks, when you're fully accountable for what could go right and what could go wrong, when you adopt that mental model, what you end up doing then is you pay more attention to the finer details. You run a more in-depth analysis, a more in-depth risk-reward analysis, cost-benefit analysis. If you're just walking around airy-furry like a dipshit, offloading significant amounts of responsibility to other people, well then when things go wrong, you're not prepared. You haven't done your homework. because you haven't assumed full responsibility for what it is you're doing. When you offload responsibility for things, you don't have all of the information at your disposal. You haven't run that in-depth analysis. You haven't looked at the worst case scenario. And what happens when you don't look at a worst case scenario? You're underprepared. And when you're underprepared, you can get caught by surprise. And when you're caught by surprise, what happens? Well, the probability of you making the right decision decreases, and the probability of you making a mistake increases. And when you're on the side of a 12,000 foot high mountain, that mistake could be very costly. And that's the lesson from this, folks. The boyfriend isn't responsible for her death. She's responsible for her own death. Call it harsh. But she's a fully grown adult. She's a mountaineer. She likes to do this. Nobody forced her into climbing this mountain. She decided to do it. But you see, if we had to guess, folks, it's very likely that this lady didn't do her homework. Why did she not do her homework? Why did she not do her due diligence? Why was she not prepared? Because she didn't take full responsibility for what it was that she was doing. She offloaded it to her boyfriend. And so whenever the shit hit the fan near the peak of the mountain, she didn't know what to do. There was no plan in place. The worst case scenario was not factored into this equation, not factored into this climb. And she paid the price, which was her life. And we can learn from this, folks. Don't put yourself in a position of weakness in life. Because you see, when you don't be fully accountable for what it is that you do in life, you see, when you don't take full responsibility for what it is that you actually are deciding to do in life, you put yourself in a position of weakness. And when we watch these Austrian prosecutors literally come after the boyfriend, wanting to blame him and hold him accountable for another fully grown adult dying, it plants a sneaky seed. And don't allow this sneaky seed to take root in your mind. Because this sends out a message, folks. And the message to me is loud and clear. And the message that this story sends out, the sneaky seed that's being planted is, it's fine not to take responsibility. It's fine to blame other people. Don't do your due diligence. Don't be fully responsible for what it is that you're doing in life. Oh no. Because you see, if the shit hits the fan, you see, you can just blame someone else. You can just blame someone else. They can take the blame. They can take the fall. That's a sneaky seed that's trying to be planted in your mind. Don't fall for it. Don't allow these Austrian prosecutors, these dipshits, to try and convince you that in this particular circumstance, that it was the man's fault, that it was the boyfriend's fault. Yes, the boyfriend has to take responsibility for getting into business with a fucking liability. Yeah, he takes responsibility for that, all right. But when it comes down to her actually dying, no, that's no one else's responsibility or fault other than hers. She's a full-grown adult, folks, who knew the risk-reward. You see, the thing is, she was underprepared. She offloaded responsibility, and she paid the price. Welcome to life, folks. This is what happens. You don't want to be engaging in risky behavior when you're not fully accountable for what it is that you're doing. And broadly, even if you're not involved in a risky behavior, even if the behavior that you're involved in isn't life or death, you still don't want to be walking around not being fully self-accountable for what it is that you're doing. Because if you absolve yourself of responsibility, it's only you who loses out, really. Because now you're underprepared. You haven't done your due diligence. You haven't done the in-depth analysis, the cost-benefit analysis. And so your decision-making is sloppy. you're prone to making mistakes. And sooner or later, the probability of you walking into a big, costly mistake increases. And so that's what we can learn from this story. Self-accountability is everything. Taking full responsibility is everything. It should absolutely be your default in this life. Because when you take full responsibility, you pay closer attention to the finer details. And you see those finer details? They could save your life. Like in this instance. When you get into a circumstance on the top of a mountain with stormy weather, the finer details become very important. And they could have saved this woman's life. And that's the lesson that we take from this. We don't put ourselves in a position of weakness. A position of weakness comes from not taking full responsibility. It comes from not being fully informed. Don't allow yourself to get into a position of weakness. Allow your default to be, I'm fully accountable for what it is that I'm doing. If I'm going to do something, all responsibility is on me. Because that's going to allow you to pay closer attention to that cost-benefit analysis. You'll be able to run a more accurate analysis and better assess if this is a good decision or not. If this is a good move that I'm going to make or not. So anyway, that's the harsh take, folks. Let's see if there's anybody in the live chat. I don't think there is. Let's have a quick look here and see. Let me see here. There doesn't seem like there's anybody in the live chat. Well, with that, folks, that draws the show to a close. Very important one indeed. Pay attention to those finer details, folks. But enough of that. Again, folks, I will remind you, feel free to give the stream a thumbs up. Give us a like if you enjoyed what you were hearing. Also, folks, get down into the comments section. Let me know what you thought, if you agree or you disagree with the Bandido's take with respect to this particular story. And then finally, folks, I would encourage you to subscribe to the channel here on YouTube, Bandido Talks. We are live Monday to Thursday, 5 p.m. Irish time here on YouTube. I'm going to head over to Rumble now. I will be live over on Rumble in a few minutes. We are live over on Rumble Monday to Thursday at 6 p.m. Irish time. That's where the Bandido's heading over there now. That's everything this evening from me here on YouTube, folks. Enjoy the rest of your day. And with all of that said, it is over and out from the Bandido.